Many music fans will be thrilled to meet John Lennon. After all, he was one of the creative minds behind the Beatles' biggest albums, records that shaped the future of pop music. Yet Pink Floyd bassist Roger Waters regrets his only meeting with John. His path only crossed once with Lennon during the Beatles' tragically short life, which came before Pink Floyd hit the big time. The pair were working respectively in Abbey Road on March 21, 1967, when Pink Floyd gained access to the control room to hear Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club before anybody else in the world. Although it was an experience they would never forget, Waters didn't take full advantage of his only chance to meet Lennon. Speaking on Marc Maron's WTF podcast, Waters shared, "Piper at the Gates of Dawn, we were doing that in No. 3 studio at Abbey Road, and the Beatles were doing Sgt. Pepper's in No. 2, and I made records in No. 2 later, we made stuff in there as well. I only met John Lennon once, to my huge regret, and that was in the control room No. 2, and he was quite snotty, so was I." Waters didn't specify the details of why both he and Lennon were snotty, but this does seem to align with their characters. They may not have become best friends, but Waters continues to admire the Beatles and once named Lennon as one of his all-time favorite songwriters alongside McCartney. In an interview, Roger Waters spoke to Howard Stern about Bob Dylan and the Beatles.
And did it anger you that songs always had to conform to like a 4-minute or 3-minute rule? I mean, you didn't. I mean, you guys were making... Right. But did that irritate you about record companies and the business and sort of like, why do I have to write a 3 or 4 minute single?
Sad-Eyed Lowlands, Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands sort of changed my life. When I heard that, I thought, well, if Bob can do it, I can do it.
Right.
It's 20 minutes long. It's the whole album.
Right. Did you resent...
And it in no way gets dull or boring or anything. You just get more and more and more engrossed. It becomes more and more hypnotic the longer it goes on.
So you don't spend a lot of time listening to music. When you were young, I mean, when you were younger, would you listen to the Beatles? Would the Beatles and the Stones inspire you?
Yeah. When I was at college, I would listen to the Beatles.
They made playing music cool, right?
Well, they also, for instance, when they made
Sgt. Pepper's?
When they made Sgt. Pepper in '67, we were in the same studio making our first record, and I remember when it came out, pulling the Zephyr 4 over into a lay-by and listening to the whole thing and just sitting there with my mouth hanging open going, wow, this is so complete and accomplished and whatever. But it was more than that. It had a ton of ideas and a ton of narrative in it, and I feel more than any other record, it was the record that gave me and my generation permission to branch out and do whatever we want to. But if they can do it, we can do it.
Yes,
we don't need Tin Pan Alley anymore. We can write our own stuff, and we can...
It changed everything.
Changed everything.
Yeah. It was a game changer. So when I heard Sgt. Pepper's, I was floored.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe what was going on. And Revolver too, sort of. Yeah. But Sgt. Pepper's was, oh my God.
Yeah, and they'd instigated their own revolution, because obviously when they started off it was all please me and come on, you know, whatever, and they transcended all that, and they transcended all the nonsense of Shea Stadium and, you know, girls screaming and nobody being able to hear anything, to making songs that people really wanted to hear because they're really, really smart, clever, beautiful, musical songs.